All right, let's jump in. Imagine for a second that you lose everything. I mean everything. Your home, your leader, your whole sense of safety. That's exactly where our story begins today, with one of the most epic survival stories in American history, the Mormon pioneer trek west. We're going to unpack how a moment of absolute crisis was transformed into a journey of faith. To really get why they left, you have to feel the crisis they were in. John Taylor wrote these words right after watching his friend and prophet Joseph Smith be killed. The people felt completely alone. They were leaderless, they were grieving, and their enemies were closing in fast. So the saints were forced to leave their homes, their city, their beautiful temple in Nauvoo, Illinois. Think about that. They had built this thriving city, one of the biggest in the state, and now they had to just walk away from it all, heading into a totally uncertain future and a journey that would test them in every single way you can imagine. And look, this wasn't just packing up and moving across town. We're talking about a trek across 1,300 miles of just harsh, unforgiving wilderness. It was literally a journey into the unknown with absolutely no guarantee of survival. The weight of leading thousands of displaced people was just immense. I mean, by January 1847, while camped at a place they called winter quarters, Brigham Young was so physically worn down by the stress and responsibility that his clothes didn't even fit him anymore. This was their absolute lowest point. But it was right here, in this moment of total desperation, that the whole journey got transformed. It went from being a frantic escape to something so much more powerful. Brigham Young pleaded with God for guidance and received this revelation. Now, you gotta understand, this wasn't just some good advice. For them, this was a divine command, a literal blueprint from God on how to survive the journey that was ahead of them. And this is the turning point. This revelation turned the whole journey into a covenant, a sacred promise. The saints weren't just refugees anymore. Now they were on the Lord's errand, and they had a divine structure to guide them. So, what did this divine plan actually look like on the ground? Well, it was all about organization and, maybe most importantly, looking out for each other. The Lord basically told them to organize like a disciplined army. They were split into companies of hundreds, then 50s, then 10s, and every single group had a captain. This whole structure was designed to make sure nobody got left behind, especially the most vulnerable, the poor, the widows, and the orphans. Everybody was responsible for somebody else. Now, the sheer scale of this migration is just mind-boggling. Between 1847 and 1860, more than 47,000 pioneers made this journey. Can you even imagine the logistics of moving that many people across a continent with no cars, no phones, no modern tech at all? But the cost was incredibly high. It's estimated that around 6,000 people, men, women, and little kids, died along the way. Let that sink in for a second. The path to their new home, their promised land, was literally marked by immense, heartbreaking sacrifice. And maybe no group shows that sacrifice and that faith better than the handcart pioneers. This chart just shows how devastating the risks were. The Willie and Martin handcart companies, a lot of them were immigrants from Europe who didn't really have frontier skills. They left too late in the season and got caught by early winter storms in Wyoming. And the losses? They were just tragic. To make the journey possible for people who couldn't afford a big wagon, each person was limited to only 17 pounds of personal baggage. That's it, 17 pounds. Seriously, just pause and think about that. Your clothes, your tools, your family heirlooms, everything you own has to fit into a bag that's probably lighter than your school backpack. What makes the cut? What do you leave behind? Daily survival was a constant test of their creativity. I mean, when there was no wood for fires, you know what they used? Dried buffalo droppings. They collected a natural baking soda called saleratus from springs to help their bread rise. It's just a crazy testament to their resilience that they could find ways to keep going while walking 1,000 miles. And yet, through all of this unimaginable hardship, their faith didn't just survive. For so many, it got stronger. They talked about seeing miracles right in the middle of their struggles, feeling a divine power helping them push their carts when their own strength was completely gone.
You see, their story is so much more than just history. It's this incredible legacy of faith, resilience, and keeping covenants. And it kind of leaves us with a question, right? When you face your own wilderness, whether that's at school, with your friends, or just in your own heart, how will you draw on the legacy of faith they left behind for all of us?